Welcome to the HR Empowerment Podcast, where we will uncover strategies and new insights from HR professionals who discuss up-to-date regulations, best practices, and the most pressing topics like diversity and equity, leadership, dealing with difficult situations, and much more that affect your bottom line and business. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, everybody. Wendy Sellers here, the HR lady. I am here with my co-host, JC.
Hey, Wendy.
Hey, how's it going up there?
Oh, pretty tired. And a lot of panic setting in. We've got a big eclipse coming up, so they're talking about states of emergency. Buy your bread and hope for the best. We'll see what happens.
Right? Yeah, by the time this podcast, well, how about this? If you're listening to this podcast, the eclipse went by already because we're ahead of the game here, and everybody survived.
Well, one of the interesting things about that, Wendy.
The video did.
One of the real interesting things about that, though, is while a lot of the local municipalities may be shutting down for the event, many employers are as well. And when we think about the children being out of school, as well as having to take care of maybe our older parents at the same time, we have a lot on our plate, as well as everything being closed because the moon is going in front of the sun. So there's a lot of stress there. I think that kind of ties in with a little bit about what we might be talking about today, though.
Yeah, it could. It absolutely could a little bit. We are here today with a Christy Yates. Hey, Christy, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. You're an author, a speaker, a podcaster, a licensed educational psychologist. Oh, my goodness. What do you do?
The list is endless, right? I'm a retired school psychologist, so that's great. Retirement is great, but I'm now reinventing myself. But yes, I wrote a book about living in the sandwich generation. I am a proud sandwich generation parent. Both my parents passed away in 2015, about 7 weeks apart, and both had dementia. At the same time, I was raising teenagers, so it was a lot. And even though my husband is amazing, it was a lot for both of us. But that since that time, I've sort of, I took a step back in 2021, retired, and started to do some things to help other sandwich generation parents. So I completed my book, and then I joined an organization called ALZ Authors, alzauthors.com, and started talking about my book. And they also do a podcast, and now I'm the co-host of that podcast, and that's called Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia. And then I work with a couple of the other organizations. I do speaking with businesses a lot, actually. I'll come in and talk about how to support sandwich generation folks in companies. I'll come into employee resource groups a lot. But also I work with other organizations, Whole Care Network, caregiving.com, some others, and just really trying to shine a light on what's happening for these sandwich generation parents.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody in the family is affected. The parents are the people that they're taking care of above and below. And, this also kind of leads over into the workplace life too, right?
100%. I attest to that. I was going through it and I was working full time. And I think what I bring to the conversation is that piece about the kids, because when I was caring for my parents, I would, of course, like everybody else, Google this, Google that, try and find some things out. And there's a lot out there about what I could do for my parents. And I needed that information. But there wasn't a lot talking to me about how is this affecting my kids and how is this affecting me as a parent? Because let me tell you, parents who are stressed out don't always show up to be joyful parents with their kids.
Right.
And as a school psychologist, I can tell you what happens at home comes to school. So that's where I sort of bring in another element of like, what's the whole family picture and how do we work with that? What can we do? And there's a lot of opportunity for healing, growth, resilience building, all kinds of things, in addition to finding out really great strategies to care for yourself, care for others. Yeah.
Hey, let's take a step back real quick, just in case nobody knows or somebody doesn't know. What the heck is the sandwich generation?
That's right. Yeah, great term. I did not coin that term. That is from a social worker back in the 80s in New York City was noticing a lot of her clients were in their 40s and they were coming to her and just talking about being squeezed between their kids and their parents. And they were stressed out. And so she coined the term sandwich generation. I kind of felt more like I was pulled. I don't know if you remember that great Disney movie called The Incredibles. I felt like I was Elastigirl. Not that I was superhuman, but that I was being pulled apart all the time between my parents and my kids who loved one another very much, but it's just you're being pulled in a lot of different directions. But that's the classic sandwich, is kids under the age of 18 in your home, and then parents or someone you're taking care of. It could be a spouse who has an illness. It could be someone else you're caring for. But it could be that your adult children have moved home and you've got grandkids and now you're caring for a grandparent, a great-grandparent. There's all kinds of sandwiches out there. So
right.
Yeah, that's typically it. But you're the caregiver that is sandwiched is between a couple different generations and feeling that squeeze.
And working at the same time.
Most caregivers are doing some kind of work, either full-time or part-time. But many, Wendy, have had to leave the workplace because the cost of caregiving has been so steep recently and going up and up and up. And that is sometimes disproportionately affecting women. And we know that sometimes when women leave the workforce just to have children, going back to the workforce can be difficult. You might not re-enter at the same level. And the same is happening now in the sandwiched years, that you might lose a little bit of seniority or some other kinds of things if you're taking a step back. So there are a lot of implications for the workforce. Yeah.
JC, you have some stats you want to share with us? I know you're chomping at the bit over there. We don't have that many people in the in the workforce, right?
No, not that many.
In 2021, family caregivers provided 36 billion hours of unpaid care, totaling $600 billion. Women...
Wait, what? 36 billion hours?
Correct.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Women provide 60% of the total value of caregivers in the United States, or $360 billion worth a year. 61% of U.S. households rely on two incomes to maintain financial stability, and the direct cost of caregiving to the U.S. economy is nearly $44 billion, resulting in the loss of over 650,000 jobs and nearly 800,000 individuals with absenteeisms at work. Back to you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're not shocked by this, right?
No.
At all. But it's the thing that really hit me right there is the fact that most families need two, if not more, incomes. But then you're taking care of somebody, kids or elderly parents or other family members, like you mentioned. And so now you either get down to one salary or possibly less because of the stress of that too. And no wonder why everybody's stressed. What did we say before our show today? How are you doing? You're like, stressed. I'm like, how am I doing?
Yeah.
Stress. There's so much stress in our workplace, in our society. Like, something's got to change. But before we jump into that, I want to wrap up session 1. This is a 5-part series. We're going to be talking about how to support working family caregivers. And this, remember, our audience is HR-ish people. Some people have 17 hats, and one of them is HR. And we want you to walk away with today some help and some advice about your silent struggle for caregiver employees. So we'll be right back.
Thank you for joining the HR Empowerment Podcast, brought to you by Aurora Training Advantage. We hope you've gained new insight and strategies to navigate the HR profession. We look forward to you joining us again on the HR Empowerment Podcast.